Hello, sir. Welcome to 11 a.m.
Hey.
That was a great way. If it was like a puppy paw.
All right, man. Well, Sreeram, welcome to the show. Stoked. You've been on our list for a while. Somebody we wanted to get on. You're founder of EigenLayer. You kind of defined a whole new category of restaking, and now we've seen you turn your attention to verifiable AI. I'm curious if you can maybe chart that path to this new infatuation.
It's not a new infatuation. I was a professor before I started Eigen, and I used to work on AI. Actually, I used to work on genomics and like algorithms. And it turns out one of my students beat my 1.5-year-old benchmark with using AI at that time. So this is 2017. And I was like, oh shit, this is the new reality. The idea that AI-based algorithms can beat human crafted algorithms designed over years of work. So this was very early. This is 2017, and I kind of realized this at that time. And also that crypto and blockchains are probably the only things that an AI cannot beat, because cryptography and blockchains are rigid. So as part of my joining thesis of crypto, so I started crypto, working on crypto and blockchains 2018. I started the University of Washington Blockchain Research Lab. Have always had this as a natural pathway. In terms of how it's related to EigenLayer and why we started EigenLayer, let's say you wanted to build a decentralized AI inference network, or a decentralized data storage network. Any kind of network or a protocol, you have to go start your own layer one blockchain. So this was the status before we started EigenLayer. And what Eigen gives you the ability to do, EigenLayer, Eigen in German for your own layer, it gives anybody the ability to build new decentralized protocols without going and starting a whole new trust network. It's a common trust network, using the Ethereum validators and stake any token that can be staked in Ethereum rather, and that can be used to power the protocols built on top. So that was the kind of core idea of EigenLayer, even though the thing that became most popular was restaking, stake and you can earn yield on EigenLayer. But really the value prop always of EigenLayer has been, the ability to expand the range of innovation and services that can be
you give
built.
us maybe just an update maybe on the adoption of that? I think, there was this hype around
absolutely.
it, but I'm not sure if folks fully recognize what is being built with it these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you look at kind of like the adoption curve of like EigenLayer, like on the one side, we have staking, right? So there's, 15 to $20 billion of stake, depends on each price. That is sustained, right? Many people thought initially it's just like airdrop farming and then it'll vanish. It's been 1.5 years after our token launch, and still we have maybe the third largest protocol in the world, crypto protocol, and maybe the first largest in the US on the staking side. On the operators, we have like a wide range of operators, from home operators to Google Cloud is an operator on our network. NTT Docomo, the largest Japanese firm, is data firm, is an operator on our network, and so on. On the services side, people can build these services we call AVSs. These are networks built on top of Eigen. And there are hundreds of these networks. The net economy of like protocols and startups created on Eigen. Like this includes liquidity staking protocols like EtherFi. This includes, AVSs built on top like, Lagrange, opacity, a whole bunch of these networks, right now Infura on layer 0, right? So a whole bunch of networks built on top, but just like new startups that just built as, on the Eigen ecosystem, valued over 5 billion. So, and raised over $500 million. So I think this project of bringing together existing stakers and operators to actually serve new networks has been quite successful.
Big numbers, man. Got $11 billion of natively staked ETH on the network today, which is a big number.
Even just looking at the TVL chart is a big narrative violation from, I guess, how loud everyone was about restaking a couple of years ago to the mind share it has now, but it's chugging along.
Yeah, Completely. Right. This is always the thing with new technologies is people overestimate what can be done in the short term and underestimate what can be done in the long term. I think that's basically the journey that we're through.
Okay, so where does verifiable AI come into this? And
Yeah.
I guess we're just sort of looking at your sort of history. You were clearly early to things that have become very, very big, and so I'm like, okay, pattern matching here. I should probably pay close attention to what you're interested in right now. So help me understand the future that you see and you're building towards here.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I'll spend a minute explaining our recent rebrand to EigenCloud. So think of EigenCloud as an umbrella brand like Alphabet under which Google exists, right? So EigenLayer is one of the layers in the EigenCloud stack. So what is this EigenCloud stack and what's the role of AI in it? So when you look at a traditional cloud, right, like an Amazon Web Services, if you look at a traditional cloud, the base layer of the cloud is a data center, right? So Amazon, AWS has a lot of data centers. Recently, one of them went down, and there was a lot of ruckus. AWS East one. But the idea that you have at the base layer of a cloud is a data center, which is a physical store of servers. The base layer of EigenCloud is a decentralized verifiable cloud. The base layer of EigenCloud is EigenLayer. So what does it mean? Instead of having a single data center, anybody can stake and run their own compute. And as long as they're correct, they'll get rewarded. If they try to cheat the system, they'll get penalized. So the base layer of EigenCloud is EigenLayer. So what we realized as we were building this project is that nobody wants to go and use a bare metal data center. So you say, oh, I have a data center. Do you want to come and build something on top? It's not very interesting for application builders. What application builders actually do is to use services on top of AWS. So there is a storage service called S3. There's a compute service called EZ2. There is an AI service called Bedrock. These are the services every developer uses. And what we want to build in EigenCloud, firstly, we want to kind of like articulate our vision clearly that that's what we are trying to build is a stack that is complete like that. And so at the base layer is EigenLayer, on top of which we have EigenDA is a data availability service, similar to a storage, it's a data availability service. EigenDA is the leading DA protocol in crypto. It has over $2 billion in total value secured, rollups built on top that is being secured, the highest throughput DA. So that's its own category, and we've invented another category leader there. Then you go into, like, if you look at the cloud stack, you have storage, compute, and AI. So we have those two next that just came up, less than a month back. EigenCompute is a mechanism to run computation off-chain in a decentralized, verifiable manner and bring the results on-chain. So let's say I want to build a massively multiplayer game. I can't directly go and write it on an EVM or on Solana or anywhere because the constraints of the programming language are very tight and the compute ability that you get is very limited. So what you can do instead is you can write an off-chain container. You write your program, package it up into a container, just like you would if you're working with Google Cloud or AWS, and then deploy it to EigenCompute. It goes and finds the compute nodes, and make sure they're secure, make sure they have slashing conditions, all these things, and then sends it out. And then does the computation, brings the result back on chain. So that's EigenCompute. And then finally, EigenAI is the verifiable AI stack. You want to run AI inference, make sure it's run verifiably, and then brings the result back on chain. So I'm happy to dive into why these building blocks are needed in order to build for the agentic era.
Can we talk about why verifiability is so important?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you think about what people think of, what is the big value prop of crypto? So on the one side, people think, oh, maybe crypto is decentralization. So that's one value proposition. Another one is, maybe you can use it for payments or incentives. And I think the third and most underlying foundational one is crypto is a technology of trust. So I have to interact with other parties. I can't trust that they're going to do the things correctly. Instead, if I can actually make their computation, their inference, their actions, the agent's code verifiable, then I'm not taking a counterparty risk on anybody. So I can give some examples of applications which can kind of trigger why verifiability is important. So today, there was a news that ChatGPT is getting out of giving legal, financial, and health advice, liability, right? So, you go take advice from ChatGPT, it says something, and then if it's wrong or erroneous or something, then they have counterparty risk. So that this is one of the reasons why you don't see things like agentic trading or automated trade execution on a GPT or a Grok, because if they do the trades, and imagine you're trading with Grok and it suddenly buys Dogecoin and then the price plummets, then there may be people who are aggrieved by it. So this is basically the issue. Instead, if you could build a system where you say, here is the piece of code that should run, and if this code gets executed, I'm not telling you this code is good or bad. I'm just telling you that only this code, this AI agent code, has to execute and make your trades. And this agent code I know already uses this data sources, this compute infra, and this inference. And this is how it's bundled, and that's how it's going to make the trades. Then I don't need to trust anybody. And if I can guarantee to you that that's the only code that can interact with your money and do trades for you, then you completely remove all liability and counterparty risk. So that's an example of automated agentic trading. So, in our team built some examples of agentic traders, right? So you can just give a bunch of money, the agent analyzes all the things, and then goes and does trades on your behalf. And then you may be able to customize it in various ways. So this is a great example of very clearly the trust problem. Oh, I can't trust ChatGPT because they can change the code, they can update how the ChatGPT algorithm works. Whereas if I know that this is the specific AI inference code, this is the specific compute code, this is the specific data sources that are being used, suddenly I have a superpower that I don't need to trust anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I want to go in two directions, but on this one, I'm just very curious about the future, like how you're interpreting the future here, because I clearly you're building some of the deep tech, like the foundational technology that is going to enable something big. I mean, obviously there's a level of success here today, but I think you're betting on there being 10 or 100x more here. So what is that 10 or 100x future that we're stepping into here?
Yeah, absolutely. The future is the bet that we are taking very heavily is, the bottleneck for adoption of AI and agents is trust, right? Because the more AI and intelligence is going to pervade into our life, if I can trust that it does what it says it does, then I'm going to be able to give it bigger and bigger position to actually take actions on our behalf. And this could be an AI agent as an adjudication platform. So you and I enter into a contract, instead of it being like a limited programmable smart contract, you just enter into an English language contract, and then an automated AI agent judge adjudicates what the dispute is and then gives a result. In fact, we did a research with Princeton to actually build benchmarks and so on for corporate governance, where we can have a company charter and then see that the actions are compliant with that charter, fully using AI, run in a verifiable, trustworthy manner. So that's an example. The set of things that you can do in a world where you can trust AI is much, much bigger than the set of things you can do in a world where
it's
you cannot
interesting
trust
to me, because I feel
AI.
like I'm not sure that the general public doesn't trust AI right now, though I think you don't have to go dig too deep to see all the challenges with that belief. But is there sort of a mismatch between expectations and reality here?
That's a really, really good question. I think the way to think about it is, when we say that people don't trust AI or not trust AI, you can think of AI agents in two different dimensions. One is single player agents that just help individuals. And in that scenario, the trust is, oh, I'm going to run it on my side, or I'm going to delegate to somebody to run. It's not a big issue. But whenever agents are involved across multiple individuals, a trading pool is a great example. We're all putting in money, and then this agent's going to do trades on our behalf. So whenever there is a multi-party coordination, that's when trust becomes a huge bottleneck. So when it's a single person and I need to use an agent or an AI to do my own thing, trust is not an important thing. Also, right now, if you look at AI adoption, it's more on the side of if it goofs up your image on Gemini, no big deal because you are in the middle and you're going to do like you're going to look at it and say, oh, this sucks. But imagine letting your agent actually run your company, right? So as you kind of escalate the levels of importance of agents, they manage your money, they go and do automated, like instead of putting your money in a mutual fund, it's actually a fund run by an agent. Instead of a token which is governed by a DAO, here is a token which is governed by an AI agent. We built an example of this called Vibe Score. It's like Kaito, that crypto Twitter like allows, like, hey, I can go and tweet about somebody and then earn rewards, but it's built on a verifiable platform because people complain, hey, is this a Kaito actually rewarding users correctly? But if you had a fixed pre-committed AI algorithm, you can actually do that. So the levels of trust show up when it's multi-party rather than single party.
I'm curious how this fits into or plays into like alignment concerns. Like, do you imagine a future where, all the most powerful models are actually kind of contained in these, verifiable kind of black boxes where they can't run rogue, or how do you see Eigen kind of playing with alignment?
Absolutely. I think so alignment is on a spectrum, right? On the lower ends of alignment, you think about verifiability and insurance, right? So I say, oh, this code runs, it's insured, right? So insurance has been one of the ways of dealing with tail risks, right? So for example, you can see in autonomous vehicles or other places, things like insurance play a big role in actually putting the pressure of safety back to whoever is building these things. So those kinds of things can be built on top of Eigen. And so those are definitely like part of the spectrum. But as we go deeper into like, more and more sovereignty to these agents, you want to have constraints, just like there is civil and criminal law to constrain the sovereignty of individuals. We would want automated digital civil and criminal liabilities to these agents. If an agent goes rogue, it'll lose all its money and nobody can run it anymore. You want things like that built in, automated. I think one way to think about reason about this is, imagine you're building a society, and just like societies which enable individual agency to be expressed but still kind of constrained so that it doesn't impose any externality, any bad behavior to the others, societies which can actually orchestrate this well thrive. Societies which constrain individual agency too tightly or like completely create no repercussions or consequences of your action, both of them fail. So just like building institutions in the real world is important, we need to build, for AI and agents, they evolve and upgrade so fast, we need to build digital native, programmable, automated, self-enforcing, crypto-native institutions. So that's how we see the role of Eigen in that world. There's also the other side, which is fascinating, which is when you think about an agent that goes rogue, right? You can actually build fully unstoppable agents because of crypto rails. An agent that owns crypto money, nobody can censor it. It can just like run on its own and so on. But right now, there's no framework to actually build agents which are actually unstoppable. Part of what we're doing at Eigen's building the rails for unstoppable agents, which actually grants it more sovereignty, but also make them verifiable. So these two actually restrict each other's power. So we think that's the right organization of society.
Maybe a last question here before we let you get back to building the future. If I look at the rebrand to EigenCloud, it seems to me as if you are putting Eigen into a very big and valuable category here, which I think you sort of associated with maybe Amazon and Google, the sense that there is sort of this base level infrastructure that is very clearly in high demand. I think we saw a $39 billion deal with Amazon and OpenAI today. And so, but also a very competitive set and one that is, incredibly well capitalized and with big sales forces, et cetera. And so I guess the core question in my mind is like, what types of products are going to be built on EigenCloud that couldn't be built on Amazon or Google, et cetera?
Absolutely. I think even though we did that kind of consciously to to ensure that people understand. So what was happening was we were building all these components. Oh, why is EigenLayer is a restaking guy? So why are they building a data availability? Why are they building AI? Like it just appeared too dissonant to understand that these are all coherent into like a single vision. We created this branding of EigenCloud. But the core difference between EigenCloud and AWS or GCP or anything is, firstly, this is not directly competitive. It's competing on a niche which simply doesn't exist. And the niche that doesn't exist is verifiability. When you run a piece of code on AWS, you don't get a certificate, you don't get a cryptographic verification, you don't get a crypto economic attestation that that code is run correctly as stated, and it cannot be updated, upgraded. It's going to run unstoppably forever. You don't get these kinds of guarantees. This is the specific domain of crypto. So you can think of crypto itself as actually just unstoppable, verifiable compute. And you can put Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana in this like landscape. So Bitcoin can run as much compute as can fit on a $5 Raspberry Pi. Ethereum can run as much compute as can fit on a $500 laptop. And it enabled a whole host of DeFi and new applications. Solana said, no, we're going to scale this more, but it can run only as much compute as can fit on a $10,000 server. But the kind of applications that crypto actually needs, whether it's a decentralized Uber, or you go back to the founding story of Vitalik and Ethereum with World of Warcraft, his spell got rugged. But to actually build that, you need not just to put your NFT of your spell on chain, but you also need to put the whole World of Warcraft needs to run verifiably. So the scale of compute, you want to build an Uber, you can't just put the payments on chain. You have to put the pricing engine on chain. So you take each one of these examples, what you find is the scale of verifiable compute needed to achieve crypto's potential is the scale of compute is simply unavailable today. You can't build even a single AI agent inside Solana. So that's the scale that we're in. What we want to do is to, just like Bitcoin's $5 compute, Ethereum's $500 compute, Solana is $5,000 compute, we want to build billions of dollars of compute that are run in the unstoppable, verifiable manner, which is unique to crypto.
Amazing. You got anything else, Josh? I feel like that's maybe
It's a great note. Yeah, big vision. Gonna noodle on that one for a while, I think.
Yeah, Sreeram, I appreciate hanging out with us today. I think in many ways, 11 a.m. is a mental health experience for Josh and I, where we just get to go talk to people who see the future, are clearly very optimistic about the future they're building towards, and we get to live vicariously. Though I think we're fairly optimistic people as well. But this has been a wonderful conversation. I think it's that as I was chatting with your team, arranging this this conversation, I was one of those people who was like, oh, there was a rebrand, and what the heck is going on here, and how are you building all these different things? And I think I very clearly see that packaging up today, and I think the way you sort of described the playing field here makes a ton of sense to me. So you got an EigenCloud bull here, freshly minted.
Thank you so much, Jess and Josh. Really enjoyed being here on 11 a.m. and looking forward to more of your episodes.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome, man.
Appreciate you hanging out.
Take care.
Peace.